right. So, tell me a little bit about yourself before we get it started. Like, what do you? I know what you do, but like, what work have you been doing lately?
Well, I had to go back to work in order to keep my programs going. So I went back to being an interpreter, serving all areas of law and medicine. And preparing for my trip to Vietnam, they asked me to do an international retreat overseas. And I said, sure, I'll do that. That's in November. So time's moving quite quick over here. It's seems like I'm struggling to find time to do things. I mean, notice that me and you've been back and forth. I feel so bad.
You're fine.
And I'm also training a novice monk, novice Lee, um, towards this path. So I got a handful on my plate in regards to duties of a monk. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so typically, my interviews last for like an hour, just depending on how the conversation flows and stuff like that. So of course, I found you on TikTok.
Oh yeah.
I found you on TikTok, and so I kind of like was just lurking on your page and was looking at the work you did and stuff, and it was really interesting. And I've always just wanted to talk to someone kind of that is living a lifestyle that you're living. I think is very interesting, and I wanted you just to just share your wisdom, your work and stuff like that, just with my audience. I feel like we have like kind of like the same target audience. So I don't know. I just wanted to just learn more about your lifestyle.
Yeah, it's pretty chill.
Yeah. So is there like anything that you don't want me to ask or anything that's off the limits?
I am an open book. You can ask whatever you like. The past, the
Okay.
present, the future, you name it. So open book. That's
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Let
okay.
me go to record. All right. And you said Venerable Chi Dao.
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. All right.
Recording in progress.
All right. Hey guys, it's Nadia. Welcome back to another episode of Moonchild Podcast. Today I'm speaking with Venerable Chi Dao. Say hey to everyone.
Hello. I would like to welcome everyone with Nadia here. Very excited to be here with all of you and share some wisdom.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for coming on today. If you don't mind, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? Like, what work do you do?
So my name is Venerable Jidao, TRI space DAO. I am 36, turning 37 this June. I have been a monk for 8 years now. I was born and raised in Vietnam up until 7 years old. I immigrated to the United States in 1995 at the age of 7. Went to public school here all my life and attended college here at Edgar College. Um, I went to public school just like the rest of us, went through the struggles, the bullying, trying to fit in, being Asian. Had a lot of friends of all colors and sorts of background, black, white, Puerto Rican, Chinese, you name it. Um, I worked a lot of jobs, anywhere from fast food all the way to as an interpreter in the courtroom, serving all areas of law and medicine. And that's a key note in my life is that type of work leading me towards the field of social work and how it all combines together, coming together like a piece of a puzzle in order to make sense of my world and everyone else's hectic world and helping people now through Buddhist psychotherapy, counseling. So I've been doing that for 18 years and I grew up with, mom and dad. I don't have any siblings, only child, only lonely. I have one cousin here in the US. I have a couple cousins in Australia and in Vietnam. But for the most part, I've lived here, I would say, all my life. I've traveled overseas to Cambodia and Thailand. And I've been to Vietnam about 13 times. I took my training in Vietnam, my very first training in death meditation. I've been meditating for 22 years. 16 of those years, 16, 17 of those years is Samatha meditation, and the remaining in Vipassana, insight. I studied counseling psychology at Eckerd College, and until present day, I merge the two studies together, the studies and practice of Western psychology and Eastern philosophy to help teen suicides and increase student resiliency. However, my work is not limited to just students, but across the entire lifespan of a human. And I hope that does it justice for my bio.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, that's a lot that you're just contributing to everyone. I love that. You've been around.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I've been in love about 7 times in my life. I went through all the stuff that we go through, growth and development. Um, Again, just all of the stresses, trying to make sense of our hectic world in my younger days. And I think I left out that I became a monk as a direct result of losing my grandmother and my best friend a year apart, and I hit rock bottom. Had I not taken the path to peace, I would have probably wound up dead or in prison. Was on a very suicidal path. And I just want to be a living proof and example that a person can, in fact, change and to inspire other people by and through one's own transformation.
For sure. Oh, wow. I love that. And I want to say I'm sorry about your losses as well.
Thank you.
Also, condolences to you. So, just for the people that don't know, what is a monk before we get into like just um, how you got into that? What is a monk?
A Buddhist monk is a person that sees suffering in himself and sees suffering in other people. And suffering is birth, old age, disease, decay, and death in a person. When you can see that in you, you see it in other people. You realize that there's a path that you can take to liberate yourself, find inner peace, freedom, joy, and liberation from the cycle of birth and death. The cycle of birth and death means birth of a thought, death of a thought, birth of an emotion, death of an emotion. The cycle that we wake up with, the cycle that has been vicious in our mind. A monk is a person who looks at his own fault and try to fix small things. It's kind of like scrubbing the dishes. You eat a big steak and there's a stain on there, all of the residue and residuals, and you scrub it nice and slow, mindfully, and eventually you get the whole dish squeaky clean. One's life, um, in a person, in a human's life, you will have a lot of flaws. You will have things, habits, bad habits, flaws, um, defilements, unwholesome deeds, thoughts, and actions. And a monk is one who looks at that and wants to purify his mind, his actions, his speech for the benefit of other people. A monk is one who sees great benefit, especially karmically speaking, the workings of karma, the law of cause and effect. And ultimately, it is the path to peace, giving everything up, renouncing all of the worldly pleasures that regular lay people enjoy, sleeping, luxurious things, perfumes, sex, alcohol, drugs, the nightlife, all of the things that we thought brought us joy is fleeting. It is not permanent. It is not stable and secure. So a monk takes this path in hope that he would find long lasting, stable peace, as much as stable as it's ever going to get, and as long lasting as it is ever going to get in one's lifetime.
Wow, that was beautifully explained. I like that for sure. I most definitely do agree with you on the things that we try to fill ourselves up with, like sex, drugs, money. It doesn't really fill us up lasting. It's not lasting for sure.
And we just
So,
want
how
more. We just want more of it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's like you constantly just like reached for more and more, and in the end you still feel empty, you know. So it's so important to really self-reflect and figure out what makes you happy, you know. So how did you get into being a monk? Like, I know you said you had that pivotal moment in your life. How did this find you though? Like, did you research it, or what? How did you get into it?
I was born and raised Catholic, growing up Catholic, Sunday schools, learning Vietnamese in Sunday schools. I believe the name of the church was St. Joseph's Cathedral in South St. Pete, 54th Avenue South. It's maybe 62nd Avenue South. Um, so I was born and raised Catholic, but I always felt a little cold in church. And when I step into a monastery, I always felt a little warmer home. That's what I would call it. A home that I didn't really understand what it meant to be in there. I just didn't understand the chanting. Every time when I go to Vietnam, I always stop by the monastery at night from 6 to 7 to listen to them chant, to sit and meditate, try to meditate. And I just felt just a very big, warm comfort being there. It's pretty chill. It is quite unprecedented to see someone this young um, to be in a monastery, at 14, 15, 16 years old. So I've already had my curiosity set at that age and started to look at teachings, spoke to monks. My first teacher was Venerable Tong in Nha Trang City at Kim Sung Monastery, my own hometown. And his monastery is literally on top of this little hill or little mountain, that's what I call it, right in the middle of the city. We get up there and it's equivalent to maybe 20 or 30 stories high. I mean, that's quite high. And you look down and you see the whole city and you see how noisy it is. But we were very much at peace up on this monastery. He taught me a lot. He took me underneath his wings. We attended a lot of funerals. So that was the start of my direct exposure and experience in Buddhism. He belonged to the Mahayana tradition, and I am now a Theravadan monk. But because of that compassion and unfailing guidance, it helped me stay straight on the path, as straight as possible as a struggling young man with a lot of anger. So, I just continued while going through middle school and high school, the continuous curiosity of study of philosophy, anthropology, history, psychology, and now it all comes together as one big piece puzzle. All of the academic studies to help us make sense of why we do what we do, why we think the way that we think. And I'm just fortunate that it turned out good, that I didn't waste my time studying those things and to merge it with Buddhism to fully understand.
So let me ask you. So, with being a monk, is it under one religion, just Buddhism, or is it different religions that you can practice while being a monk?
Buddhism can be described as both religion and a way of life. It is religion and religious in Southeast Asian countries because they're very devoted with rituals and practices, traditions, and heritage that is uncommonly seen in the West, and also sometimes quite contradicting according to the original Pali text. It is a way of life because this is your choice. No one's going to force you to take refuge in this path. You do so because you have utilized your intelligence as a human. That this when you see the grand and great picture of Buddhism, that we don't discriminate if you're black, white, Puerto Rican, Chinese, Japanese, Korean. We don't discriminate if you're gay, straight, bi, transgender, LGBTQIA plus. The Buddha taught the middle way of how to live one's life, not too extreme of something, and obviously don't get too lazy in life, and the balance in between. there were a couple of Catholic priests that told Venerable Thich Khan that they became better priests as a direct result of practicing Buddhism. And I thought that was very beautiful and powerful, profound, coming from Catholic priests who have, deviated from their routine to try something new and became better human beings.
Okay. So, what was the hardest adjustment for your new lifestyle with being a monk and being so young? Was it hard for you to adjust to just giving up basically everything that you thought brought you pleasure?
Yeah, I think one of the hardest thing is giving up, the act of giving up, the fact that I realized I was hitting rock bottom, and if I didn't give it my all effort, energy, time, dedication, and commitment, that I would not yield the great benefits that this philosophy has to offer. And part of along the path, one has to be very disciplined and remind yourself that if you don't want to suffer anymore, you got to stay straight on this path with the instructions left by the Buddha. The specific, concise, straightforward instructions on what to do and what not to do. Not to be lazy, to be ardent in one's studies and practice, to meditate, no matter how difficult it can be. One must push through and face the pain head on. You suffer now and you will enjoy life later, pretty much would be the short saying in this practice. Whereas humans tend to push away what is unpleasant. In Buddhism, we face the unpleasantness head on, no matter how unpleasant, painful, or the suffering of the mind in facing the past, how we got to where we are today, etc. But facing one's own demons and to see, yeah, this is what made me angry, this is what made me controlling, this is what made me who I am and where I am today, and what I need to do to change that for the benefit of myself and other people in my life and my family. Um, but yeah, it was challenging, but once you get past it, it's rewarding.
So, you were talking about facing your demons and facing what hurts. How do you do that, like in the thick of it? Because it's so easy to talk about it and preach about it, but how do you actually do that in the heat of the moment and you're feeling all of those emotions? How do you do that? How do we do that?
Yeah. This is the challenge of being humans, is that you will have joy, pleasure, pain, sorrow, sadness, lamentation, depression, anxiety, bipolar, and even schizophrenia. I mean, anyone under 25 is schizophrenic according to the textbook. So, you know, a smart, intelligent person, one who utilizes their intelligence, logic, and rationality in one's mind, tend to steer away from problems and is not a magnet to problems or drama. When we look back at, and I invite all of our listeners to look at your life, who's in your life and who's causing you all the headaches, the heartaches, the headaches, the drama, you realize you can get out of it. It's your choice. You can drop people, you can take a break. You have a lot of jurisdiction and power to move about what's happening. You're not stuck with them. And what is the motive here in keeping these people in your life? So when we break down the details of our lives, the blueprint of our lives, we realize that we suffer needlessly and unnecessarily, put up other people's BS, as you will. I'm a no nonsense monk, very straightforward. I don't sugarcoat things. And in order to teach people how to ensure their own peace, one has to see it very clearly. Um, and you don't put yourself in that situation where your anger could proliferate. The arising of your anger, the arising of jealousy, the arising of envy, all of these negative emotions that provokes in us. In Buddhism, central to our practice is the cultivation of compassion. But how? It is exactly all these hows, how, that people have, question mark with the hows. In order to have compassion, you must have deep understanding. Ah, so you have to study to understand circumstances, people, place, and things, so that we less likely to judge other people based on surface level perception, and to have great, deep understanding about why they behave the way that they do. We are very moved by the way how people behave, undesirable behavior, abnormal behavior, deviant behaviors. So we respond in anger and with judgment. So in Buddhism, we invite you all to look at how your anger is easily arisen. What is the root cause that brings you to anger so quickly? And when we trace it, the links of influence one by one, we realize that it's not healthy for us, and you don't get anything done, and it is difficult persuading the other person to change if you utilize anger. So there's methods to that. The Buddha gave us 84,000 teachings to how to control your emotion, how to bring your emotion to the surface, not to suppress them, to see them as they are, and to see things as they are in life, which I call it is what it is and it can't be what it ain't.
Just like that.
That's right. Simple, right? Wisdom all in one sentence.
Right. Okay, so earlier you said you were in love 7 times in your life. So how were those relationships for you? Were they healthy in your life? So how were those relationships for you? Were they healthy? Like, how was the dynamic in those relationships?
Well, school doesn't teach us how to love, and I tried to love as best as I could, just like the rest of us. You know, we get together and we look at each other and we're like, "Yeah, I like you, and this is the things that I like about you." Um, and yeah, if you're down, I'm down. Let's do this. And along the way, you get jealous. Along the way, you get angry. You get mad. You get sad. You get controlling. The power struggle in between, all these things and all these weird things that humans do in order to keep the love that they have found, thinking that it is permanent, it will not change, and that it will be under your control always. And boy, was that a mistake. So I wasn't good at loving, and I knew that, and I admitted to that at a very young age. And at age 22 was when I realized, okay, I'm going to change, because three people that don't know each other, three girls that don't know each other, says the same thing. You're angry, you're controlling. To me, I realized that, and then one of them, I think her mom said, the day that Jidao changes is the day hell freezes over.
Oh God, not the mom.
Oh, so that was awakening. That was eye opening to me. I took that personally, rightfully so. I took it on a very serious note, that I respected them and I respected their families, their love, their tolerance and endurance for me, putting up with my crap. So I said, well, you know, if I don't want these habits to continue, maybe I should rethink uh, about what's going on here. And that I did. I know I said I wasn't good at loving, so maybe I should go to college and study love. And I did. I went to Eckerd College, and the degree was in human development with an emphasis in counseling psychology. So basically, we study from birth all the way to death. That would be human development and all of its theories. And then we study counseling, marital couples, group therapies, to name a few. So it was amazing to see that, yeah, you can get a PhD in relationships because it's complex, difficult, deep, and it's depth. And I vow to myself that, just like the Dalai Lama said, if you can't help people, well, at least don't hurt them. Wanting to love another human being and not knowing the how wounds the person that we want to love. And one must take that very seriously because you're generating negative karma if you try to love and not know the how. And along the way, you make all sorts of indirect offenses that you may not even be aware of. So, you want more roses and less thorns in your life. By studying the how and adopting all of these philosophies that the Buddha left us, one can have more roses and less thorns.
Okay. So what is unconditional love in your terms?
It's tough defining unconditional love. If I could have it my way or my views of the people loving, it's ideal to have two people who are Buddhist, for example, and fall in love. But don't attach on to the term Buddhist. All it means is two people who understands their suffering and the suffering of each other. That's what Buddhists mean, basically. But if we took that out of the vocabulary and context, and I just tell you two people falling in love and fully understanding, comprehensively and completely understanding how you suffer and how the other person suffer, then how do you contribute suffering to one another if you truly love that person? I love you for who you are. I love everything about you. Uh, you know, it goes both ways. It has to start with right view, right understanding, and right view in order for these things to come forward. The unconditionality of love. We romanticize a lot of words that we don't know, and we don't know what they mean. You can get 10 people with PhDs in relationships and ask them what is love, and you would get 10 different answers. Some short, some long, some confusing, some still scratching their head even though they've completed their dissertation. And love is what you make it and how you communicate to one another. What is love? How do I love you, and how do you want to be loved, and how are you going to love me with my flaws, with my shortcomings, with my insecurities? I think that's more realistic to break down to people when they're in the dance, right? It's what I call it, the honeymoon stage. Slow down a little bit. Don't have sex for the first 3 months. Get to know each other and define what needs to be defined, and speak what needs to be said, do what needs to be done, rather than jump in there and throw this love word around and not knowing what it really means. And you misuse the word love and not knowing how to practice loving the right way. But yeah, as I get older, I think my definition of love becomes longer and deeper and more profound versus surface level in my teenage days.
Right. I for sure agree with you. I've come to learn just with my experience that unconditional love, like we always want to feel stimulated, and that's just the human in us. But that unconditional love is I love you even without the stimulation. People want to feel loved, and if they don't feel that, then they stop loving you, or they stop showing you love and care and affection. But that unconditional love, it doesn't waver through anger, through emotions, through anything. It's always there.
Yeah, and so I put in unconditional love on Google, right? And this is what it tells me. Unconditional love is love without strings attached. It's love you offer freely. You don't base it on what someone does for you in return. You simply love them and want nothing more than their happiness. This type of love, sometimes called compassionate or agape love, might sound somewhat familiar. So yeah, I think that it's all giving, and when two people have this all giving standpoint, working philosophy, active working philosophy, point, working philosophy, active working philosophy, that I would like to see you happy and how I can contribute to that every day without asking for anything in return. When we look at that in details, we see that some we see, because you see, it's love you offer freely, keyword freely, and you analyze. If you could take a whole month analyzing this paragraph that I just read, and then you reflect on freely. Well, isn't anything free in life? Is or isn't free in life? And when you take the sex part out of the relationship, let's see how long it actually lasts.
Oh Lord.
And that, yeah, you're right. And then you look at, do you want me or do you need me? Ah, so there's the motive, right? In Buddhism, we're concerned about the motive behind a person's action because it is motive that constitutes karma. You willfully, knowingly, and intentionally blank, blank, blank think about something, doing about something, saying something. What is the intention, the motive behind it? Which is, when you look at criminal law, it's called mens rea in Latin. Mens rea, which is your motive, you know. So
So how is your love life with being a monk? What is your relationship status? Are you single, in a relationship? How does that work for you just with your new lifestyle?
So, in this particular tradition of Theravadan, which is the school of the elders, so we were the original, right? We are the original. It started out with us before the split of the two other schools, making three primary school of Buddhism: the Vajrayana, the Mahayana, and the Theravadins. In this tradition, we cannot have a girlfriend. We are celibate monks. We cannot have sex. We cannot have a wife. We cannot have children. In other schools, for example, in Japan, you can. You can have sex. You can have a family. You can have kids. They assert that Buddhism cannot thrive and survive if these amendments do not take place. And this is how you practice Buddhism in Japan. So, quite liberal. We are conservative. I'm happy with where I'm at. Single. I mean, I've had sex. I mean, you name it. I've done it. There's not a thing that I don't think that I have not done, including jumping out of a plane, skydiving. Uh, Maybe I need to explore more of the world, but in regards to the self gratifications, has been quite fulfilled. It's pretty chill, you know. It's less drama. Even when we look at other places where the headlines now read, certain countries are becoming a sexless state. That means they're not even wanting to have sex with each other. When the reporter asked these Japanese gals in Japan, because there's this big thing now where they're not having kids, they're not loving, everyone's single and very to themselves, um, and they play with robots. So they asked them, "Excuse me, why do you not like having?" And the gal said, "We just don't want to be entangled." But if we slow down that word entangled, we see that how mangled and tangled in the hairball of mess of when you fall in love, you find out this person's got debts, student debts, medical bills, debts, credit card debts. They got kids behind them. They got all sorts of attachment. They got warrants out for their arrest. all all of this entanglement, and it's you like, you see what I'm doing here? I took off my glasses and I'm putting both of my hands on my face. I'm rubbing my forehead. I'm rubbing my eyeballs, and that's the typical mindset of the presenting symptoms and situation when you get into the mess that you do without first knowing the other person for 3 months before having sex. To see how much entangled in life, how much they got their stuff in order, working, schedule, home, life balance, the in laws, the parents, the siblings. What is going on here? And what did you get yourself into this mess? Mm. So by looking at the blueprint of all of that, you see that, um, just tread with caution and make an informed choice. Buying through deep understanding comes back to that deep understanding again. becoming curious, having an investigative perspective, you know. Should you investigate one another? Yeah, you should. I mean, they do it to you when you're asking for a job. Why do you not
Right.
investigate each other and make it apparent, transparent, and known? It's just like, yeah, I really like you. You're beautiful. You know that you're beautiful. But I was wondering if you're comfortable in answering some of these questions that would make me more comfortable with you, and during the course of this relationship, because I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time now. Obviously, I don't want to waste your time. So yeah, you kind of have to treat the modern day relationships like it's a job application. You know, even adopting methods like the immigration process of becoming a U.S. citizen. They want to know 5 years ago where'd you work, 5 years ago where'd you go to school, 5 years ago where did you live, um, ever been a convicted felon? What were the circumstances behind that? What was the mitigating circumstances or aggravating factors behind these charges? Um, it's like, so they, have you ever been a terrorist? Have you been associated with any organizations, police, military unit, all of these things. So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you don't have to go to that extent of immigration procedures, but just having a cordial talk, and it takes time, right? You don't want to jump in the first date and like interrogate somebody, but through time, learn about each other and have fun. You go on dates, it takes time, energy, money. You go on dates, sit down, have a steak, have some filet, salmon, whatever, and talk it through. And you slowly gather information, learn to trust each other, learn to get a baseline, and say, yeah, wow, she's really actually beautiful, or oh my goodness, wow, he's kind of an a-hole. you know
Right.
just to be real, and be like, yeah, I don't think I can spend my life with this person, or yeah, I think that we will bloom like wildflowers with this person. So it's just an honest look about just about that factor. It's a sensitive thing indeed.
Yeah, for sure. No, I one thing I just never got. Most people say just like one day of talking is enough, and then they just hop in bed with each other. When truthfully, I feel like there's no time on love or figuring someone out. I feel like you get to know the person you're pursuing or with every single day, whether you've been together for 10 years or you just met that person. There's so much to always learn about that person. So that's why I think it's so important before you join together physically, because that's what sex is. It's literally you guys combining into one. It's a union. I feel like it's so important to, like you said, get to know the person. I feel like nowadays sex is being normalized, and there's nothing normal about sex. It's nothing normal about it. It's very sacred. It's very spiritual. It's very serious. It is.
And sex, I mean, words from the wise, and before becoming a monk, you know now with wisdom, I would tell you all, sex is better after you get to know the person, because
Yeah.
not everything is satisfying. The Buddha said that, which is impermanence and dukkha, suffering. Sex is not always going to be satisfying. um, your body changes through time, and so is the frequency and recency of sex. And people equate sex for love. It's not. So you have to really slow down and to really look at the emotional aspect, the physical aspect of one's desire, sensual desire and lust, so you don't get yourself in trouble. Because it only takes that one oops, and you go knock somebody up, and that's not fun. Having 18 years of child support, parenting guidelines, and entanglement and attachment.
All the hits. For sure. Okay, so just going back to just like the facing yourself part, what we were talking about earlier, how do we separate ourselves from our emotions?
The speed of our thoughts and the speed of our perception is so quick that we don't get a chance to catch it in time. And the next thing you notice that your hands trembling, or you're having a panic attack, or difficult breathing, or this thing in your throat that you choke up. All of these physiological responses of the body as a result of the emotion, as a result of what you saw and heard. So we teach you all mindfulness. What does that mean? Mindfulness of what? When you open your senses, your eyes, your ears, your sense doors, what we call them, ayatanas, you realize, oh Lord, information is coming into my eyeballs and into my brain, my prefrontal cortex, my amygdala, left hemisphere, right hemisphere of the brain. And then you, based on what you know your whole life, study your whole life, you label things. That's good, that's bad, that's a he, that's a she, that's a, this is object, chair, table. So when you have to understand some neurology aspects, um, so that you slow down a little bit. We're so quick to judge. We are so quick to fire back. We are so quick. We have that knee jerk reaction. It is by and through logic that you separate what you saw, what you heard, what was activated within you, and how that leads to the emotions that is arising, is about to arise, or have arisen. And cognitive behavioral therapy teaches you that you think the way how you feel, and you feel the way how you think, thus leading to the behavior that is at hand. So that is why I have the cognitive behavioral therapy program. For that matter, it's a 300-page book that is free, sent through email, and you learn exactly that. You think the way how you feel the way how you think. And you slow down and you start analyzing the anatomy of your thoughts, the anatomy of your emotions, the psychological study and scientific study of emotions. So when you're aware of anger, and when you're aware of all these emotions, again, envy, attachment, control, jealousy, all of these commonalities in emotions, you are better equipped at taming it than letting it run your life, your house. Um, and I have seen, again, serving in the courthouse for 18 years, I have seen how that leads to ill-advised decisions that have led people to go to jail needlessly, and now part of the system, because you did not control your anger, you did not control your emotions, and they kill. Any crimes of passion leads to murder. I mean, it typically leads to murder, because of, if I can't, no one else will. And it leads to all these complexity, conglomerate of emotions that stack on top of each other with resentment. Um, the aggression already there as part of being human. We all have built in aggressions, just to some degree and levels of intensity and gradient. So mindfulness helps you slow down by meditating, by focusing on your breath, the four foundations of mindfulness. We teach you step by step to be aware of your thoughts, to be aware of, before anger arises, you realize the breathing changes, the sweaty palms, the trembling of the hands, your veins about to pop out of your neck. We teach you all these little tiny things to be aware of. We teach you walking meditation so that you cultivate patience and endurance, because a lot of things in your life will test your patience, such as traffic. So we have 84,000 teachings. That's just why monks become monks forever. We stay as a monk for the rest of your life, mastering 84,000 teachings, 45 years of his teachings.
Right. So how many times a day do you meditate?
Typically 2 to 3 times. That frequency changes and is no longer frequent due to competing priorities and training novice monks. So, I mean, I've already graduated. That's why I'm allowed to be off by myself, and the emerging teacher that I am. After 5 years of apprenticeship, a monk can go off on his own. But it's no excuse to not meditate and often. So I try my best to fit in 2 to 3 hours in any given days and break it up once a person has mastered mindfulness, everything they do is actually a type of meditation. Speaking to you right now through the screen is a type of meditation. I'm fully aware in the present moment with you. I am not thinking about the past. I am not thinking about the future. I'm fully aware of the words that's coming out of my mouth, the context, the question design. So it depends on, where a person is at. Come as you are, and we meet you where you're at, so that we select the proper meditation for you, how frequent you need to meditate. But yes, admittedly, that these are my honest answers.
Okay, so what is peace to you?
Peace is free from disturbing emotions. Anything that disrupts your peace, anything that keeps you from smiling, anything that makes you go back to the past or propel you to think about the future too much, that affects your sleep, work life, home, school balance, is not peaceful. The priority of peace, and something that I like everyone to really stop and think about, reflect, and write in your journal. Priority of peace, and write what that means for each and every single one of you. And for some people, they've been in the drama for so long that they don't know what peace is like. That they've had people in their ears nonstop radio. It's like a nonstop radio having all drama in your life. That they don't know where to stop, when to stop, how to stop this nonsense. It seems like they have conditioned themselves to live this life of thorns and not knowing how to swim above the water. So peace to me again is free from disturbing emotions. Um, Peace to me is other people being peaceful, not harming themselves, not harming other people. Is what we need more of each and every single day.
I love that answer. I most definitely agree that that is most definitely peace. Yeah, for sure. I feel like peace looks different for everybody too. So it's just really important to know what peace looks like for you individually and not for the next person. I think we spend our lives seeking peace in other people's eyes and other people's visions, and it doesn't really resonate with us because that's not peace for us.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, you're right. That's why the definition governs not doing harm to yourself, not doing harm to other people. Like if somebody gonna sit there and watch Netflix all day and that's peaceful to them, or if they're gonna play games, PS5, PS4 all day, okay, well, as long as you're not doing harm to yourself. I mean, if you're playing games to the point of kidney failure, maybe you should consider that this is doing harm to myself. Because we had kids die playing games for days, and dehydrations and lack of nutrition. Oh yeah, just Google it. Teen dies of gaming for days. It will all show up. Trust me. Again, Buddhism is about the middle way and not too extreme, and that's pretty extreme to me. So when I say not harm to yourself and not harm to other people, got to really look at that in its particulars and the details of it.
Right, right. Take that into account. Yes. Okay, so what have you learned about yourself while being a mom?
That I can change a lot of things, change my thoughts, my speech, my behavior, my actions, the way how I treat myself and other people. That I am not what people think that I am. All of the labels in my life. You're a loser. You're a failure. You're not going to make it. You're not good enough. You are this. You are that. I learned that I can redefine my life. I learned that there's a more liberating way of seeing how life is, what life is, and how to navigate about life, through life, by oneself. No one can save you, no one can, no one may. You must save yourself. So I learned to save myself through all of the labelings, conditionings, and the causes that I put myself through in my younger days, and the relationships and my jobs, everything, my life in totality, and the examination of my life. Um, and yeah, it's really chill. I really love, and I'm really indebted that the Buddha once existed 2,566 years ago, and leaving these instructions for people like me that feel like, yeah, I didn't fit in. So how do you live your life if you felt like you didn't fit in the rest of the crowd? And loneliness, anger, trauma, addiction, going through domestic violence in one's life. How do you make sense of all of that? How do you come to peace with yourself, with your past? And I learned that I went through hell multiple times. I've lost everything 3 times in my life, homeless, living with friends, living on the streets. Uh, and the fact that a person can make it through. If you learn the how, you will be stronger than ever before. And I learned that no one's ever asked me this question. You've got really good questions. I'm glad we stayed on top of this podcast. These are deep questions, right? Um, and I learned that, yeah, if everyone dies tomorrow, my parents and all the people that is meaningful in my life, that I can survive and move on quite fairly quickly, non-attached. Um, One should learn to be by oneself because not everyone lasts forever, said the Buddha. And learn to be alone because, well, the Buddha said, I rather walk alone than to walk with fools. So as I cultivate myself to be the wise, I see, many people do foolish things and so on. So I develop policies set in place and to transmit and share these guidelines, policies, and procedures for all of the younger monks to also adopt so that they can avoid unnecessary thorns to step on in stepping on.
How do you detach? Because I know, even though we like to think of ourselves sometimes as spiritual beings, and we really want to practice what we preach, we're still in flesh at the end of the day, which is we're inevitably, and that comes with attachments and wanting to claim things and people as ours. So how do you just detach from everything and everyone? Is that more peaceful for you? How do you do that?
Attachment is wanting that person around and not change, and we want things to be under our control. Uh, Definition of attachment, the broad definition of attachment. Say so. The Buddha taught the 3 marks of existence. Anicca. Uh, Hold on. Impermanence is, what's the Pali for it? Anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Impermanence, suffering, and the non-self. What does that 3 things mean? The first one means impermanence. Not everyone or anything lasts forever. All things conditioned are subject to impermanence. The school that I went to, the 2 middle school that I went to is no longer there. That's like, wow, so much memories, and it's like, what? It's gone. It's a patch of grass now. So is my dad's old Asian neighborhood family center that I grew up and part of big chunk of my life in memories. Like I was there during the demolishing, and I'm just like, but 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 my childhood was in, like, what? Now it's in rubbles. Are you kidding me? Um, again, looking at the impermanence aspect of your body. 5 years ago, you were not the same. 5 years later, here you are. In 5 more years, your body's going to change. Your body, speech, and mind could change. People typically change every 5 years. Change job, change school, move away, have kids, whatever. The second thing is dukkha, suffering, that it is not always pleasant, that it is subject to change, um, not always satisfying. Not everything is always satisfying. And the third thing is the non self, anatta. It is rarely under your control. Let's say attachment to one's body, my body. Really, is it your body? So when you get sick, can you will it not to get sick on days of podcast? Ah, you dump all this medicine, dermatology, lotion onto your skin. Do you think that the elasticity of your skin is going to last forever? You think it won't be droopy and saggy, in your 70s, the bags around your eye, whatever. Look at the body, you realize, yeah, I have hair today, I might not have hair in 10 years. I don't have any diseases now, but you may have diseases later. You can have dementia, mild cognitive impairment. You could have osteoporosis. So looking at the three marks of existence leads one to have right understanding and right view through the informed lens of Buddhism. Now you're no longer attached to anyone or anybody because you see that they don't last forever, they will change, and they're rarely under your control. Now, when you apply that to love, you can see that, yeah, go ahead, Tom. Go try and control Karen. Go ahead. Let's see how well this gonna work out for you. Right. And again, when we look at the sex aspect, is it always satisfying? Is it? Do you always climax the same? Right. Okay. So I mean, these are things that happens every day. People have sex every day. This is the frequency of human behavior. And does your car last forever? Does your house and all these things that we think is actually ours and is permanent? And that's how you learn to detach. And the other potent thing is death meditation. Also, you know, you came with nothing, you're gonna leave with nothing. You ain't gonna have a U-Haul behind your hearse.
Right. Yeah, right.
When am I going to die? How am I going to die? And where am I going to die? You start contemplating that daily, and you realize, wow, you become more grateful, less attached, and more grateful, and more likely to be enlightened, and having more enlightened moment, more nirvanic moments than fear. Well, we're fear based. We fear everything. We fear we might lose this, lose that, lose you, lose me, lose love, lose money. But if you practice what we tell you, we're teaching you, and see it for yourself, try it for yourself, because that's what the Buddha wanted you to do, is to try it, not take it on blind faith. And even if I was a Buddha, I'm not. Even if I was a Buddha, don't even take my word for it. You are to try out meditation for yourself to see it.
Okay. So, last question. What's the best advice you've been given, like ever?
Be mindful of your thoughts. That was uttered by my cousin Andy Huang, Professor Andy Huang. And yeah, he said that when I was 16 years old, and it never left me. I've always looked up to Andy as my one and only cousin in the United States. He is also an only child in the family. He is the son of my uncle Quack Huang, and he's the oldest in the Huang's family. And I don't know, Andy just dispenses all of these wisdom in his room, and I love hanging out at his house. He's so peaceful. He's a martial arts instructor, Black Belt Hall of Fame. Um, and the one night he said that, and I sat with it. Like everything he says to me was like, things coming out of the Bible or something. And he says, "Be mindful of your thoughts," and everything is preceded by the mind, and how the mind manufactures these thoughts. And if we're not aware of them, we can act on it without even knowing that you have acted on the thought that was manufactured moments ago. We get about 72,000 thoughts each day in your mind. And if you're not aware of them, they will run you down to the rubbles. They will run you down to dirt.
Ooh, they will, and they aren't even ours. They
Right.
aren't even ours.
Right.
Oh, mind your thoughts.
Be mindful of your thoughts.
Okay. So, where can everyone find you at, and what services do you provide to the collective, if you don't mind sharing?
People can put Jidao Monk, TRIDAO Monk, on YouTube, Google, and Instagram, across all platforms. I don't have Twitter. I think that's a little too much. I don't have. I mean, there's a lot out there, and I try to keep it simple. YouTube will be your best bet because it's a unifying platform that is better controlled than the rest of them. Um, and I just want to be simple. I don't want to be known as like the social media monk. But anyone can reach out to me at any time. I'm available to the public anytime for free. I don't charge any money. I don't charge anything for any services, funerals, nothing. The only thing I can ask you for is a cup of water. Um, and so we rely on donations to survive, and the people have to see that this monk does, in fact, practice the right way, and he is worthy of gifts before gifts are given. Just because he wears the robes does not make him worthy, does not make him a wise person. And yeah, anyone can reach out to me at any time. I publish my cell phone online. You can call, text. I get a lot of joy helping people. Is what makes put a big smile on my face at night when I sleep. And should I ever pass away, I'll the biggest smile in the coffin. You ever seen a monk in a coffin smiling? That'll be me. We do the best we can. I do the best I can, and that's all we can do is to help each other through this lifetime. And I think, yeah, I think that concludes your question, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Oh,
I
oh,
want to.
counseling. There you go. You asked for services. So I cater to teen suicides. This is the month of May 2023, where a lot of my students graduated. I published my journey and their journey on my TikTok and YouTube. So people can see the type of work that I do is catering to teen suicides and increase student resiliency. Um, and it's rewarding, very challenging, but we have lack of fundings because it's a unique challenge to meet each student where they're at in life. Um, but Buddhist counseling is my thing. Uh, Again, merging the two together, Western psychology and Eastern philosophy, to help you make sense of your world.
Okay, well, look, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your wisdom. I have learned a lot. I know the people listening for sure have learned a lot also.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, and may you all be well, be happy, be free, always be healthy. Um, Keep your heart open, and love will find its way in. Again, you don't have to suffer through life needlessly because we have the how. Any how that you can think of, we have the how in Buddhism. So give it a try. And Nadia, you did a good job with all these reflective questions. Some questions I was like, well, no one's ever asked me that.
Thank you. Look, it was so much more I wanted to ask, but I know you have stuff you have to do and stuff like that. So I just want to thank you for sharing your time with me today. Thank you for that. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
again for.
And you can have me back at any time that you like. And if you think of anything else, I'm more than happy to jump on it. And I promise you, I will jump on it as fast as I can. And there's none of this back and forth like we did. I felt really bad, considerate, and respectful of your time and everyone else's time. So.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. Look, we're here today. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Moonchild Podcast. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bless.
Recording stopped.
Thank you. You were great.
Wow, you really thought these through. You thought these questions through. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I've just always wanted to like speak to someone like what is it called in the monastery? Is that the word? Or yeah, I love speaking to just different people with different lifestyles that walk different paths of life. I just think it's just so interesting to learn different perspectives and then share that like with the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, as you go along and anything that pops up in your mind or what you're going through, and feel free to reach out and ask questions. I love answering questions and educating people. So
yeah, for sure. And just make sure to send me like your social media handles. And I'm not sure, do you have a link for your counseling services?
Yeah, so it's everything's on a link tree. So I'll send that link tree over, and then people can just click that, and I'm pretty easy to get a hold of and contact. It's just the way how me and you contacted, just the same way people would contact me.
Okay.
And yeah, it will work itself out.
Okay, great. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. I'll let you know before I post our episode, and it's audio only. I haven't got into the video part yet, but when I do, I for sure want to bring you back on.
Oh, sure, no problem. It's a lot of fun doing this. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, you have a great rest of your day, and stay in touch.
yes, likewise. Thank you, Nadia. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wonderful, wonderful. I wanted to do a talk, but man, every time I do this, I always have something on my mind. So I'm going to be out on the beach a little bit later today, so prepare for that. All right, it'll be my surprise for all of you. But thank you for joining, and may you all be well until the very next time. Take care. Instagram, right? Always ask me to like. One of my camera turned off. I don't know why. Technology.